Hello and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to my new format. It ain't Jack and Ori, it's the Sunday Story. So the purpose of this new format is to really share with you some personal tales of my time as a trainer and generally in life, in the hope of giving you some motivation to get ready to kickstart your week. So without further ado, let's get started. My story starts around about 2 years ago when I was doing some team training for Argos. So this particular training we were doing was to get a existing standalone store ready to go into a Sainsbury's in a new digital environment. So obviously a lot of the training is to do with dealing with change, and everybody deals with change differently. Some people deal with it very, very quickly. Some people take some time to really come around to it. So it's really, really important, the training that we do. And obviously some people in the room were not looking forward to it. Some people were. And I remember going around the room and saying, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about the changes that are happening? And I got 10s, I got 9s, I got 5s, but from one particular person in the room, I got a -1. Now, as a trainer, I quite like that because it's always nice when you've got someone who's in a really negative mindset, because it makes you work that little bit harder to try and turn them around and get them thinking differently by the end of the session. But this person was negative throughout. Literally for the first part of the morning, everything he said was, rather than, I always think the difference between an optimist and a pessimist is that an optimist will see an opportunity where there's a problem, and a pessimist will see a problem where there's an opportunity. And that's exactly what he was. Now, part of the training that we do is obviously all about mindset. And there is a section in the day where we talk about kind of our dreams and kind of what our dreams and our dream jobs would be. So we ask, or certainly I ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? Which sounds like a really weird question, something that you're asked, when you're 3 or 4 years old. But the fact is, we have dreams when we're kids, and we kind of still have them when we're adults. So I was going around the room and saying, money, forget about the obstacles, forget about anything else. If there is something you could do with your life, what would it be? So we get lots of different opinions around the room, and some of them are big dreams, some of them you would maybe say aren't quite so big, and that's okay. So it could go from an astronaut to a footballer to running their own business to a vet to just simply looking after the people they loved. Now, when we go around the room, one of the things that I said after we talked about this was, when we think about anyone that works in retail, they tend to think about the 4 walls that they work in only, or at best they think about stores. So when they think about career, all they think about is stores. So at the time I was reminding people that, you work for a really, really big company. There are various departments within that company, and if there's something that you're interested in, there's a good chance that there's a job out there that would really, really suit you within Argos. At this point, the person in the room put his hand up, which I never like because, we're not at school. And he said, I am going to tell you a story that is going to fly in the face of everything you just said. So I believe at the time I kneeled down to his level and I said, do tell. And he did. So what he said in front of the whole room was, I've always been interested in IT. I've always wanted to do IT. That's all I've ever wanted to do. I put my CV and handed it in to the IT department of our company, and no one ever got back to me. Okay, that was the end of his story. Now, I know what I wanted to say to that person, but before I even got a chance, the person next to him turned to me and said, Paul, would you mind if I answered that? And would you mind if I swore? So if I'm honest, probably at this point where the guy was probably be annoying me the whole day, I was kind of like, fill your boots, do you know what I mean? But actually what she did is she turned around to him and she looked him straight in the eye and she said, you don't want to work in IT. Well, what do you mean I don't want to work? Of course I want to work in IT. You don't want it. Yes, I do. What? Don't be silly. Of course I want it. No, you don't want it. Because what you did was the equivalent of going up to the door, knocking on the door, and then when nobody answered, you walked away. If you really wanted it, you'd have knocked the effing door down. And I genuinely think that is so true. We all have things that we say we want to do. You know, it might be, oh, I want to be a footballer, or I want to be a TV presenter, or whatever it may be. And we hear so many of these things throughout doing this training session. And then when we turn to people and say, okay, so why aren't you? Or what are you doing to move towards it? And straight away, people will come out with what they perceive to be reasons for why they're not doing things. It could be family. It could be money. It could be time. Those are probably three of the biggest ones. But they will trot out a whole number of reasons, okay? But are they really reasons? Or are they excuses? Because if you really, really want something, you'll find a way to make it happen. You will be willing to dedicate yourself to make that happen. You know, and it could be, okay, family. We all have family, and family is the most important thing in my life. Okay. However, we can find a way to get what we want without it necessarily having an impact on our family. We will find a way. And if you really want something, you will find a way. A really good example of that would be, think about some really successful people. The one that I always bring up would be David Beckham. We all know who David Beckham is. Now, do you think David Beckham was just born with a God-given talent to take a free kick and that's why he's famous? Or it was just by accident that he was famous? Of course it wasn't. Anybody that worked or played with David Beckham from day one will tell you he was the first person on that training pitch in the morning, and he was the last person off it at night. Why? Because he was willing to put in the dedication that he needed. He had a goal, he knew what he wanted to achieve, but he also knew that if he wanted to achieve that, it was going to take dedication and it was going to take hard work. And he would be out on that pitch taking free kick after free kick after free kick, okay? And a lot of them wouldn't go in. But the thing about repetition, the thing about practice, repetition is the mother of skill. The more you do it, the better you get at it, okay? But there's very rarely ever such thing as an overnight success. We can even see people that we perceive to be in the media an overnight success, but we don't see what's gone on in the background. Another example of that would be someone like Ed Sheeran, okay? A lot of people would say that all of a sudden Ed Sheeran just became big just like that. Well, we saw that, but what we didn't see is the years and years and years he spent busking, honing his craft, getting in record producers' faces, sending off demo tapes, not giving up, putting in the dedication that he knew he needed to get him to where he wants to be. But a lot of us as human beings create excuses. Why? Because it's better to create excuses and say, well, you know, there's this reason and there's that reason that I can't do it, rather than try. Why? Because we know it takes dedication and we know it takes hard work. And guess what? We might fail. Heaven forbid we might fail. But actually failure, as I've said in a previous video, is so important because we learn from that failure, okay? But you are never going to achieve something if you're not willing to try and you're not willing to put in the dedication. To give you another example of a similar training session that I did, and I was going around the room and saying, if you could do anything with your life, what would it be? Okay. And one of the people in the room said, oh, I wanted to be a fireman. Okay. So what do you mean wanted to be a fireman? It's only a young guy. Well, I can't be. Well, why can't you be? Because I'm dyslexic. Okay, so If you're dyslexic, does that mean you can't be a fireman? Well, I assume I can't. You assume you can't? Have you checked? Have you looked into it? If he did look into it, he'd know that actually that is not a barrier for him getting to be where he wants, okay? But sometimes it's easier for our brain to go, do you know what? It's too difficult, so it's best for me not to try, and then I won't be disappointed. But you'll also continue to live the same mediocre existence that you were before. Don't you want to be better? Okay? And I'm not saying that as a preacher, because I've been in this situation and I've taken the easy route to give myself reasons and put my own barriers in place to stop me getting what I want. It's human nature. Okay? Human beings will do more to avoid pain than they will to gain pleasure. It's true. It's very, very true. Okay? But going back to my original point, and that is, if you're saying to yourself, I really want to do something, whatever that may be, I really want to do something in my life, I want to leave a legacy, I really want to be, I'm passionate about something and I really want to get great at it, okay? Ask yourself, do you really want it? Because if you do really want it, you need to understand that it takes dedication, commitment, and it takes hard work. Are you prepared to do that? And I hope that you are. So, what I'd like you to do in the comments below is tell me about something that you want to do. Tell me something that's a dream, a goal for you. And tell me about what you're doing to work towards that goal. And if you're not, let's not dwell on the past. What are the things that you're going to do this week to bring you one step closer to where you want to be? I think this topic is so massively important because I think most people will kind of just chug along in life, and before they know it, they're 80, 90 years old, they know they've not got a lot long left, okay? And they look back on their life and say, oh, I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done that, okay? Rather than, do you want to be living a life of what ifs when you've got an opportunity to do it now? Okay, you don't want to be one of those people that gets to the end of your life and has all these regrets about the things that you probably could have done, but you told yourself that you couldn't. Well, you can, but you've got to be willing to take the hits, and you've got to be willing to get knocked down and get back up again, and you've got to be willing to learn from your mistakes, because you're gonna make them. We all do. We all make those mistakes. Okay. I remember very, very quickly, I said this would be quite a short story, and it never is with me, and I apologise for that. I remember in a session once as a team, we were talking about legacy, and it all got a bit morbid. We were talking about what we want on our gravestones, I believe we were talking about. And the one thing that I said I didn't want was kind of like, here lies my name, then the year, and then a comment that just says, bit loud. Because I am a bit loud. But actually, I want to be remembered for being more than the person who was a bit loud. But if I want to do that, then I have to go out there and make those steps. If you're passionate about something, there's something that you're really, really, really passionate about, go after it. Don't put those barriers in your way. Okay? Accept that it's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. It may take months, it may take years, it may take decades, okay? But if you're willing to put in the effort, if you're willing to kind of negate that voice in your head that comes up with all these excuses as to why you can't do it, put that to one side and say, do you know what? I can do it, okay? The difference between can and can't is only an apostrophe and a T. That's all it is, right? Okay, and I always think there's a popular kind of saying, and I think this is so true, and it says, the person that says they can and the person that says they can't are both right. So which of those people do you want to be? As I said, fill out those comments below. I'd really, really love to hear kind of what your dreams are and how you're looking at progressing those dreams. And if you've not done anything to this point, it's not too late. What are you going to do? What are some steps that you can take this week to get you to where you want to be. Okay? And it might be only little steps. It doesn't have to be massive steps. You just need to be on your way a little bit more every day, a little bit more every week. And if you're willing to put in the dedication, then you can only grow from this experience. Okay? So, I know I've babbled on a bit and I apologise for that. But that's the purpose of this section, that's the purpose of this format, is I just want to share with you. I've got a lot of personal stories from my time as a trainer, and throughout life. You know, sometimes they're going to be my stories, sometimes they're going to be stories that other people have told me. But the idea is to give you a little bit of motivation, because you know what, life's not easy, okay? Particularly at the moment in the world that we live in. It's hard, you know. We've all probably had a wobble in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I know I have. But one thing I would say to you is, remember, there are people around you, okay? Always reach out to people. I talk about going after what you want, but the one thing I will kind of always say to everybody is, people need people. Nobody achieves anything solely on their own, okay? So use the people around you, but I really want you to start thinking about, what are the things that you want to do? What are the things that you want to be remembered for? What are your passions? And I want you to start taking positive steps to start going after them. I think that's just about it today. Hopefully you got something out of this video. There'll be more next week, of course. And if there are any particular subjects that you would like me to focus on in any future Sunday stories, just let me know in the comments below. Weirdly enough, I think as a trainer, I was very much known. I think every trainer's got their own style of the way they do things and the way they train. I was very much known as the storyteller. My belief is, it's just the way kind of I work. It doesn't work for everybody, but it works for me. And that is, if you're trying to teach something, if you can tell a personal story that can really frame what you're trying to teach into a real life situation, then for me it becomes more relatable, and people can really grasp that concept much easier. Nobody wants death by PowerPoint, so I think if you can really bring it to life through storytelling, then I really think it can have a big impact on people. Hopefully this has had an impact on you. I look forward to doing more of these. So once again, thanks for watching, and until next time, stay safe.
Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel. Paul puts out videos every Sunday and Thursday. Auntie Scared of Big Bird from Sesame Street.